Hey guys, today we have a pretty sweet deck for modern on budget, and with all the decks going around, with all the people trying to test out new things in call time, there's one deck that's making it really hard because everybody has to be ready for it, and it's Tibble's Trickery. I call it Trick or Treat, always getting the trick, always getting the treat. And this deck is bonkers. Now, the win rate of this deck of getting Emrakul on turn 3 can get as high as 91% if you are playing 3 Emrakuls, which it dips down after 3, so you don't even want to be playing 4 Emrakuls. So, that's perfect, because Emrakul, 3 Emrakuls brings us to $80, so we don't have to go any higher than that. So three is the perfect number for us, and you'll see that we are playing a lot of basic lands in here. We're playing 50 basic lands. We do have 10 swamps. Now, if you don't like the sideboard plan, you can swap this out for 5 more of each of the basics. But the sideboard plan is going to be a little bit of a switcheroo, just in order to throw off our opponent a little bit. Now, if you don't know the combo, if you haven't been hearing about the combo, essentially what happens is you aggressively mulligan with London Mulligan. You mulligan until you get Violent Outburst in your starting hand. Some people are luckier than others where they can just get it right away and they can keep it. Once you've mulliganed like 3 or 4 times, your opponent automatically knows what deck you're playing. Anyway, and having a companion doesn't tell our opponent, oh, this is trickery, because a lot of decks either run companion. Well, it's gotten to the point where the companion does not actually tell you what deck you're playing against. Especially something like Giganta. Now, Violent Outburst in here says Cascade. When you play the spell, exile top cards from your library until you remove a non-land card that costs less than Violent Outburst, and then you can cast it for free, and then put the exile cards on the bottom of your deck. So the idea of this is Cascade on a 3-drop means you can cast the first thing you flip over that's 2 mana, 1 mana, or 0 mana, you can cast for free. And so the idea is that the only thing less than 3 mana in our deck is Tibble's Trickery, which reads, counter target spell. Choose 1, 2, or 3 at random. Its controller mills that many cards. Then exile cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card with a different name than that spell. They may cast that card without paying its mana cost, and then they put the exiled cards on the bottom of their library in any order. So, if you turn 3 on Violent Outburst, it remains on the stack while you cascade. You cascade in Tibble's Trickery, countering your own Violent Outburst, and then you mill yourself 3, and then you flip over until you get the only thing not named Violent Outburst in the deck, because normally, you might flip over Tibble's Trickery because it has a different name, but we're only running 1. So, that means the only possible thing you can hit on turn 3 is Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, which says this spell cannot be countered. When you cast this spell, take an extra turn after this one. Flying, protection from colored spells, Annihilator 6. Annihilator, if you don't know, means that when it attacks, the defending player sacrifices that many permanents, and when Emrakul the Aeon's Torn is put into a graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles their graveyard into their library. So if we have Tibble's Trickery and mill ourselves 3, and we mill all 3 of our Emrakuls, they're still put back into our deck. Anyway, so we try to hit Emrakul off of Violent Outburst Trickery, and the thing about Trickery is actually, Wizards of the Coast says you cast that card without paying its mana cost, which means you get the extra turn. So you get this onto the board, and then you untap for your next turn. You untap for your next turn, and then you swing in. And if this is turn 3, then they sacrifice the entire board. They take 15 damage, and it's in the air. And likelihood is, between now and next turn, they are not getting 6 more permanents and a flying blocker. So, at that point, once you swing in, once you get that first swing, the game's over. usually by the time you cast Outburst, either they concede or they have a response. So, that is the deck. It's very, very, very simple. Somebody who has like very little knowledge of Magic, all you have to do is tell them violently mulligan until you get Violent Outburst, and they can play the deck. Even if they don't know the plan of the deck, as long as they know Violent Outburst has to be in your opening hand, they'll get it. And then at that point, they just flip over and it just happens all by itself. As long as you cast Violent Outburst, you don't make any decisions in the deck. Anyway, we do have Gigantha the Wellspring in here though, because it's a companion that can actually be played in this deck. And there's not much you actually want to do with your deck, because anything you could possibly do with your sideboard might affect your combo, probably will affect your combo. So, that's the reason why we really do want to emphasize using a companion here. Gigantha is something we can use. Let's say we untap with Emrakul, and then actually Gigantha's really more of a thing if we don't hit Emrakul, because if our opponent puts so much effort into dealing with our combo, unless they're just a control deck, which just counters our deck, which will, like, if you play, you might go against 1 or 2 control decks, but you'll win the majority of your matches. Now, if you have Gigantha though, if your opponent puts so much effort into countering your deck, your combo, that they themselves are super delayed and just can't do anything, then you can just play in Gigantha and swing in with a 5/5, because your opponent will be out of resources, because maybe they finally were able to just stop your combo from happening. They went through all that effort of making it so your combo doesn't happen, whether they aggressively mulliganed until they got the thing that they needed to stop it, or maybe they just had so many sideboard cards that they brought in that it just diluted their deck. You'll be able to play this and swing in and be able to just do perfectly fine. For the lands, we do have 2 pathways. I decided that I didn't want to go full on basic land in the deck. You could go full on basic land in the deck, but I really do like pathways, and this would be a really good place to pick these up. If you pick up all the pathways, you'll probably be able to buy like half of my decks on a budget for like $40 each, rather than 100, because of how many decks I have that just really like to use pathways. And even you could even improve on my decks by using more pathways, using more dual lands. I think pathway is going to be a very good option for players inside and outside of budget. Anyway, you have 20 forest and 20 mountain to really try to make sure that you can hit that outburst on turn 3, as well as 2 dual lands for green red. But also you have 10 swamps, because there's not enough room in the sideboard to say, yes, I have all the colors I need. I have enough lands that I need. So it's not that I really there's not much we can do with $3 to get to $100. There's not much we can do there. So there are going to be 10 swamps in the sideboard. So in game 2, if you think your opponent is going to be trying to mess with your Violent Outburst, then maybe you, for example, a card like Meddling Mage, you would be bringing 10 forests out and bringing 10 swamps in. So it'll be 10 forest, 20 swamp, 20 mountain. And then you'll be bringing in Demonic Dread, taking out Violent Outburst. So they'll cast Meddling Mage on turn 2, naming Violent Outburst, but you'll have Demonic Dread. So then you'll play Demonic Dread, and they would have named the wrong thing. If your opponent sees this coming, they might just name Tybalt's Trickery, so that can't be cast. But I was able to catch someone off guard by bringing in Demonic Dread. They were just trying to counter Violent Outburst with Meddling Mage. They should have named Trickery. So though it might not work 100% of the time, it can throw your opponent off, and it's worth the sideboard. It's worth the effort. Anyway, the deck is very strong, very powerful, and it's kind of crazy. Like, you can just win on turn 3. You don't have to be good at Magic. You just win on turn 3. Anyway, if you want to just take this for a spin online, I might recommend that you don't buy it in person, or maybe you rent out the cards, because I very much feel like this combo might get banned, but I wanted to show you guys that you can play this stupidly broken deck on a budget. Anyway, it just happens to be on a budget. Anyway, I hope you like the deck. Let me know what you think of the combo. Let me know what you think might get banned. Emrakul is the combo toy of Modern, so I don't think it's going to get banned. Violent Outburst, if it gets banned, it's just going to get replaced with any other Cascade spell. I really think it's going to be Tybalt's Trickery. It's the new card, so Wizards is not going to want to ban it, but they might have to. Anyway, let me know what you think of possible bans incoming. Let me know what you think of the deck, and if you tried it, what do you think? Anyway, I will see you next time.